Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At Home with Holmes, our local family podcast, where we cover everything from geopolitics to local Albertan politics. And speaking of family and Albertan,
we are very pleased to share with you a personal sponsor, Cabin on the Coulee Farm. Cabin on the Coulee Farm is a hidden gem in central Alberta here, and it is open from anywhere to May and November. That's a very big window, and our family has made it a priority to go there annually now because, as you know, we don't believe in just doing academic research all day or being politically involved on a quotidian basis. We need time for respite and repose and to touch some grass, and there's no better place to touch grass than here. It is actually rated #1 farm stay in Canada on TripAdvisor. Sounds like some good advice. You should go and take it. Because here you can get the full seclusion experience, from open range hikes, your fires, or if you're anything like my clan, maybe chopping some wood, embracing your inner redneck. And it is a very personal sponsor because it doesn't get more homey than Eric and Josie, who are the family owners of this Alberta prairie glamping business.
And if you want to check out more about their story, you can go on their website, cotc.ca, and that will show you the 3 locations that you could potentially stay at. One being the cabin, which is for a bigger crowd of people. It can hold 6 guests, has 3 bedrooms and 4 beds. And then there is the Coulee Yurt, which has 5 guests, 3 bedrooms, and 3 beds. This one's for a middle size, again, to bigger crowd. And then we have the Grouse House, which can hold 4 guests, 1 bedroom, and 2 beds. All of these are pet friendly, excluding the Coulee Yurt. So if you or anyone you know is looking for a beautiful sunrise in the morning, listening to the sound of cows, or are like me and want to experience your first awe-inspiring moment with God under the starry night sky that actually happened, then go again to their website, cotc.ca, or check out their Substack for some prairie life updates and some behind-the-scenes information, photos, videos, and updates on what's going on with their operations, because this is how you support and explore the beauty of what we're proud to call our home, Alberta. So thank you guys so much for watching our sponsorship. And without further ado, let's get on with the video.
Alrighty, hello everybody. This is, what part are we on?
This will be 6, I believe.
7?
7. Yeah, we did 6.
Okay, we are on part 7 of Alberta Prosperity. Is it possible? Reading the Value of Freedom document. That is very bright.
That is not clear. Hold on.
There we go. Yeah, there it's legible. So in the previous episode, that was in the Indigenous, and so we looked at the
Alberta Sovereign Indigenous People in an Independent Alberta section.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so some biggest key takeaways from that were the fact that the Indigenous budget in this plan of a new fiscal plan for Alberta, if it were its own nation, is that they have expressed the desire to increase the Indigenous budget and to not just give them more money. And this is something that I guess we can just slightly talk about because there's a difference between giving a poor person money and then giving a poor person food. We are not advocating, and I don't think most Albertans want the Indigenous just to have more money, which is what is currently already going on, is that the federal government is just giving them money, whether it's sufficient amount or not, and saying, there, have at her. But the real thing that should be done is the money should go into infrastructure projects and industry so they can have their own
investment, training programs, whether or not they want that.
Training, yes, so they can run their own plan. So that was what the increased budget is for, is not just to say, oh, an independent Alberta is more generous and so we're giving more money. No, we are giving them the opportunity to stand on their own 2 feet. Dad always alludes to the biblical story about teaching the guy how to fish instead of just giving him a fish that he got for himself. And so that's kind of the overall outlook that was taken away from the previous chapter. In this chapter, we are going over immigration. So this is a very long chapter, so stick with us, everybody. Again, if you want to follow along yourself, you can go find this document at the Alberta Prosperity Project, do a little bit of scrolling, and the PDF is right here. Dad, do you want to remind people why we are doing this and pursuing this?
Yeah, so for those who have been following, we are in mid-stride through a petition signing process that's going on in Alberta. And it's kind of taking the media by storm for positive and negative, because ultimately that's how media likes to put spin on things. And our point for doing these videos is to offer it as a tool. So if you want to share it, you want to cut it, chop it, if it's useful, if it's helpful, you want to follow along. It's just the reason why we want to take the time to put out this series is so that people understand that we can get our minds wrapped around a plan. Like, this is something that is attainable. And even though this document is not like legally binding in any way, shape, or form, it's a fantastic framework to start getting the culture of Albertans, our fellow citizens, Indigenous and alike, to start looking at it going, well, this is plausible. We are actually in a position where we could turn this idea into a reality. And so even though it's the birthing pains of a nation, there's going to be the ability to have your vote count for more, period, right? Like, elections federally are over the minute Quebec is done. And it just doesn't even matter for the rest of Canada. Your vote has never mattered, but now it would. You would have a Senate. Now all of a sudden your Senate representatives of an independent Alberta, it actually matters. And so your voice as an individual becomes 1,000% more powerful, more meaningful, and more important. And so I see that as a win-win, to have more leverage, that it implores you to become a more active citizen in every way, shape, or form. So that is why we're doing this thing. We would like to help assist the culture in getting the education required so that they can become the best type of citizen for an independent Alberta, and to have conversations with friends and neighbors, because this is nonpartisan. This has nothing to do with policies and politics. Well, I guess a little bit of policy suggestions, but more along the lines of, this isn't political. This is not about UCP, Liberals, NDP, and the like, and Green parties. And no. This is about human beings in Alberta coming together to try to figure out how to forge ahead in their future together. Good neighbors, good family, and good gracious, let's get going. Okay. So we are going on immigration and deportation plan, 29 of the document, and away we go, because we're buckle up. The proposed independent Alberta immigration policy is based on Canada's 2005 points-based Federal Skilled Worker Program, FSWP, with reapplication for Canadian work permit holders and permanent residents, PRs, and retroactive screening. Strong preference will be given to Canadian citizens who wish to move to an independent Alberta. This being reflected in additional points being given for natural-born Canadians, with a lesser number of points for naturalized citizens. Broadly speaking, if there is a qualified Canadian available, they will take preference over non-Canadian applicants. There are a number of reasons for this. First of all, that we want to give our like-minded Canadian brothers and sisters the easiest possible option to be a part of an independent Alberta. Secondly, they will fit easily into the Albertan culture. Thirdly, they understand Canada and its winters and have at least a fighting chance of being able to drive acceptably on snow and ice. However, in the interest of not making large-scale assumptions about the behavior of the people of Canada in terms of immigration, this analysis is based on historical rates of immigration and therefore assumes that most immigrants will come from outside Canada. Also key to this is that the remainder of Canada is required to accept individuals who are ineligible under the new Alberta policies, whereupon they can deal with them within the Canadian immigration policy. This is obviously a point of negotiation with Canada, but it is backstopped by Alberta's intent to deport ineligible people directly itself. Additionally, an independent Alberta will have as a policy that any work permit or permanent residency card holder who is convicted of a criminal offense and sentenced to any jail time will be deported immediately with very limited scope for appeals and considerations. However, throughout the transition this plan proposes, there will be a need for considerable empathy and consideration for the people who would be impacted negatively. It is suggested that there may be a need to allow significant exceptions, especially for those productive and peaceful non-criminal immigrants whose only failure was participating in the extremely unsatisfactory policies implemented by Canada since 2015. Revised Immigration and Deportation Plan for an Independent Alberta. 1. Points-based system, adapted from 2005 SSWP. The plan reuses the 2005 Canadian points-based system, 100 points, pass mark 67, to assess immigrants, prioritizing economic contributions aligned with Alberta's needs: energy, agriculture, technology, infrastructure. It applies to new applicants and existing Canadian work permit holders, PRs in Alberta. Criteria: education, 25 points, PhD 25, Master's 22, Bachelor's 20, Diploma 15, with verification being required as detailed later in this document. Language proficiency, 24 points, based on English IELTS/CLB scores, English being prioritized for workforce integration. Work experience plus trade qualifications, 25 points. 4+ years skilled work, NOC 0AB 21, 2 to 3 years, 20, 1 year, 15, along with suitable validated qualifications and detailed later in this document. Canadian citizenship, 40 points for born, lifelong Canadians without a criminal record, 20 points if naturalized. This is intended to facilitate movement of Canadian citizens who seek to be a part of an independent Alberta. Merit. In addition to all of the above, exceptional qualifications with superior knowledge and skills, 20. Age, 10 points, 21 to 49 years. Self-sufficient, with pension income, trust income, or verifiable financial resources, 30 points. Health, no serious illness, no experimental mRNA injections,
Wow.
10 points. Business assets, over $1 million investable to an Alberta business, 30 points. Valid Alberta job offer, 10 points. Adaptability, 10 points. Spouse's education/language, 10. Prior Alberta Canada work/study, 5. Alberta family, 5. Passing mark, 67, can be adjusted as required. Streams. Alberta Skilled Worker Program, 10,000 to 15,000 immigrants annually. Alberta Provincial Nominee Program, APNP, 5,000 to 7,000 employer-driven nominees, e.g. oil, gas, agriculture. Family reunification, 2,000 to 3,000 spouses, children, capped parents. Refugees, 1,000 to 2,000 security vetted. Total intake, 18,000 to 27,000 annually, balancing growth and infrastructure.
That's a lot different than 2 million.
You don't say. 2. Dealing with fraudulent qualifications. Alberta's policy, 18,000 to 27,000 annual intake, 150,000 to 190,000 reapplications, requires robust degree and skill verification to prevent fraud for both academic and trade qualifications. It is the combination of language skills and work-related skills which will bring the maximum value from immigration to an independent Alberta. Approaches to certify academic qualifications. Canadian degrees. Process. Verify via Alberta Ministry of Advanced Education's list of approved institutions. Public universities, CAQC, reviewed colleges. Volume. 30 to 40% of reapplicants, 45,000 to 76,000, and 20% of new applicants, 3,600 to 5,400, hold Canadian degrees. Foreign degrees. Process. Require WES ICAS evaluation for all foreign degrees, confirming equivalence and authenticity. Cost $200 to $300 per evaluation, borne by applicants, but could be subsidized for low-income cases. Volume, 60 to 70% of reapplicants, 90,000 to 133,000, and 80% of new applicants, 14,400, 21,600, hold foreign degrees. Verification. Cross-check with Anabin CHEA for high-risk countries. Example, India, China. 50% of foreign degrees. Criminal deportation impact. Applicants with fraudulent degrees face automatic deportation under misrepresentation grounds.
I just had a question for the volume. When it's saying 30 to 40% of reapplicants, and then it's giving the numbers, and then 20% of new applicants, what is that specifically? Is that saying what it would like to target from those who have Canadian and those who have foreign? Is that what it's hypothetically wanting to target, or what?
Probably willing to take on that many, because like when you look above dealing with fraudulent, and it says the 150 to 190,000 reapplications, is you're going to get that many applications. But that doesn't mean all those people get to come in, right? So they're just giving you rough, right? Like the volume roughly of 30 to 40% under the Canadian degrees, 60 to 7 under the foreign degrees. So I think these are just ballpark numbers.
Yeah,
and potentiality.
Another thing I was looking at was basically no one with a sort of criminal record and who has faced like jail time of any sorts. I just thought there were some individuals that were from Canada during the trucker protests that got arrested and faced jail time, kind of as was recently put forward. The courts in the Court of Appeal, they said that was illegal and unlawful. And so I guess that if that stands, like where maybe the previous court systems did later on deem that as illegal to do that to those people, maybe those people then could have a chance to come in to Alberta, assuming that they're not already.
But they're Albertans already, and they're Canadians.
No, but I meant
the example
not all
is
truckers
good.
who went to that convoy were just from Alberta.
Not just that, even just taking the general example, because you're pointing out the fact that we, as a Commonwealth country of Canada, there are other Commonwealth countries. The UK also has a crap ton of unjustified arrests that are happening under misnomers such as, censorship and stuff like that. So that is something we would have to bring up. So if
I'm assuming what would happen is
Oh.
when we first establish our judicial system and what it's going to look like for our sort of, constitution, right? And I'm assuming what we might do then is relook at based on our metric of what is lawful and what is not unlawful. Then we may see whether or not that's a lot of work, though, eh?
I mean, technically the criteria listed under criteria is already here to do that. So, if it really was a circumstance where you looked at the injustice of the crime that was being foisted upon people for trying to exercise their supposed democratic rights that we don't have in Canada, clearly. That's going to have to obviously come under consideration. I mean, like in most cases, once again, this is a guideline. It says, however, throughout the transition of this plan's purposes, there will be a need for considerable empathy and consideration for the people who would be impacted negatively. Like there's obviously going to have to be a sense of discernment in a case-by-case scenario.
Yeah, and they say they'll do that. They say that they would, go by case-by-case scenario.
And especially if we actually have a discussion where we actually have a Supreme Court of elected judges, not appointed. No judge should be appointed in a free and independent Alberta.
That, and also if we're taking in less anyway, like annually, because that's what we're deciding would be a good policy for Alberta, then it would help with the process for making things a little bit easier to go by those case by case, because you're not having to go through 2 million, you're only having to go through a couple thousand a year. So
we are now at approaches to certified trades. Welders, machinists, similar. Leverage Canada's Red Seal program. Overview. The Red Seal program, managed by the Canadian Council of Directors of Apprenticeships, CCDA, is Canada's standard for 55 trades. It certifies journey person status through apprenticeship and exams. Recognized across provinces, Red Seal ensures skills, portability, and quality equivalent to a Canadian diploma, 15 points in ASWP. Process. Canadian credentials. Verify Red Seal endorsements via provincial registries, e.g. Alberta's Apprenticeship and Industry Training, AIT. Foreign credentials. Applicants submit certifications to AIT or Immigrant Services Calgary, ISC, for Red Seal equivalency assessment. Non-equivalent credentials may require exams or gap training, example, welder's tests at NATE.
Cool.
Volume. Canadian tradespeople. Give or take 40% of trade applicants, 12,000 to 22,800 reapplicants, 1,440 to 3,240 new. Foreign tradespeople. Give or take 60%, 18,000 to 34,200 reapplicants, 2,160 to 4,860 new, especially from Philippines, India, Mexico. Implication: Red Seal is reliable for ASWP. Alberta can expand AIT's role to certify all trades post-independence. Provincial certification via Alberta Apprenticeship and Industry Training. AIT. Overview. AIT oversees Alberta's apprenticeship system, certifying 50-plus trades under the Apprenticeship and Industry Training Act. It issues journeyperson certificates and recognizes Red Seal. Process. Canadian applicants submit AIT or Red Seal certificates, verified via AIT's database, $50 to $100 per check. Foreign applicants submit credentials to AIT for equivalency, example UK City and Guilds, Germany IHK. Non-equivalent applicants take challenge exams or complete gap training at institutions like SAIT. Fraud detection. Cross-check with issuing bodies or use Trade Cert Canada. Implication. AIT's existing infrastructure is cost-effective for ASWP, ensuring welders, machinists meet Alberta's standards.
Well, a tiny question. When it says Canadian applicants and then it says $50 to $100 per check, is that like how much they would have to pay to get themselves checked, essentially?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, like, to me, that
Think
feels
of it
like
as a bureaucracy fee to do the follow-up necessary on their application.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, all these people that are going to be doing these checks have to get paid somehow. So I was just wondering, I'm like, oh, is that kind of like the user-based approach where it's like, well, if you want to get in, you kind of have to pay for that. And I think that's kind of, I think that's fair.
Sure. I mean, not that this is like a common scenario, but like even as I went through my rigging career, there was several circumstances where it's like when they wanted to promote you, then they were willing to send you to go and get tickets. I didn't want Precision Drilling to be the ones that chose so I took my fate into my own hand. So I actually went out and got all my first line, and then even like for rig managing second line, I went and paid for that myself in advance. I had the receipts for it so that when all of a sudden an opportunity presented itself, I was ready to go. And so I could just walk in and fill that role, because I looked at it and went, it's better that I invest in myself and show that I want to be the guy, like I can do the thing that you're looking to have done. That's the type of characteristic that you're looking for people that want to, come and work in Alberta. That's, the thing that they say about our culture that's like, oh, Alberta doesn't have a culture. Yeah, BS, that's our culture. We understand how to work, roll up our sleeves and get after it.
And being conscientious, like taking matters into your own hands.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
When it comes to the five high personality traits, conscientiousness is pretty big in Alberta. 3, reapplication for Canadian work permit holders and PRs. Target population. Give or take 150,000 to 190,000, 50,000 to 70,000 work permit holders, 100 to 120,000 PRs. Process. The process of reapplications will be processed separately from new immigration applicants to avoid confusion and ensure timely process for new immigrants. All permanent resident card holders and work permit holders are required to certify or reapply within 1 to 2 years under ASWP/APNP via a separate stream from new immigration applications to ensure new applications are adjudicated on an acceptable time frame. In other words, we don't want as much traffic into 2 pipelines because we have 2 different categories that need to be taken care of. WP holders with stable employment in a business for more than 2 years prior to independence will be granted an Alberta work permit with possible transition to a PR if they have sufficient points. It is recommended that their past positive employment record be awarded additional points, suggested 4 per year of continuous employment to a maximum of 20, and thus reducing the pass mark to qualify for a PR. PR holders with a stable employment in a business 2 years prior to independence are profitably self-employed for greater than 2 years prior to independence will be granted an Alberta permanent resident card, along with family and dependents already living in Alberta, immediately after providing proof. Any work permit holder or PR holder who is sponsored by qualified Alberta citizens for a period of 5 years will be granted an Alberta permanent residence card. Sponsorship includes guaranteeing the WPPR holder does not draw on any Albertan welfare, employment insurance, subsidy, government payment, or tax relief during the sponsorship, is in good health at the time of issuance of the WPPR, contributes to Alberta health care, estimating $500 per month unless employed full-time and paying taxes. Qualification of sponsors is based on they must be citizens, they can support at most 2 immigrants plus 2 dependents in any 5-year period, proof of assets, example, business, housing, financial instruments, income based on tax returns, and ability to support sponsored immigrants in terms of housing, necessities of life, and AHS contribution for the full 5 years of healthcare fees. They must post a bond of $10,000 per immigrant. All other applications require 67 points. Outcomes. Approved, estimate 60 to 70%, 90 to 130,000 retaining residency. Denied, 30 to 40%, 45,000 to 76,000. Issue removal orders, 90-day voluntary departure. Criminal convictions. Non-citizens, work permit holders, PRs, with any criminal conviction with a jail sentence are automatically ineligible, bypassing points-based assessment. 4. Retroactive screening of pre-citizenship individuals. Objective. Ensure PRs/workers admitted since 2015 meet Alberta's criteria and particularly will prioritize post-2015 arrivals. Process. Review IRCC records, reapply under point system. Non-qualifiers, example humanitarian stream, low points, face removal. Volume, 20,000 to 30,000, 10 to 15% of 150 to 190,000 fail screening. Criminal convictions. Any pre-citizenship conviction which earning a jail sentence triggers automatic removal regardless of points. 5. Policy of automatic deportation for non-citizen criminal convictions. Scope. Any non-citizen, work permit holder, PR, temporary resident, convicted of a criminal offense, example, theft, assault, DUI, drug possession, for which the sentence imposed included a jail sentence, faces automatic deportation, regardless of sentence length. This is stricter than Canada's 2005 Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, IRPA, which targeted serious criminality. Exemptions? None. Except pending appeals for wrongful convictions, verified by Alberta Immigration Appeals Tribunal. Process. Conviction reported by Alberta courts/police to Alberta Immigration Board. Immediate issuance of removal order with 30-day voluntary departure versus 90-day for non-criminal removals. Detention for high-risk individuals, example, violent offenders, until removal. Appeals limited to procedural errors or humanitarian grounds, example, family ties, processed within 60 days. Consideration around jail sentences would include whether or not time was served with humanitarian considerations for individual with strong Alberta ties, minor offenses. Estimated volume, non-citizen population, 150 to 190,000, work permit/PRs, plus give or take 10 to 20,000, temporary residents, example, students visitors, equals 160,000 to 210,000. Conviction rates, Canada's adult conviction rate is give or take 2% annually. Statistics Canada 2023. Give or take 600,000 convictions, 30 million adults. Assuming 1 to 2% for non-citizens, lower due to screening, higher due to socioeconomic factors, 800 to 2,900 convictions with jail sentences imposed annually. 50 to 70% of convictions include a jail sentence. Cumulative backlog, over 5 years pre-independence. Give or take 4 to 15,000 non-citizens may have convictions, assuming no prior deportations. Total criminal deportations, 4,000 to 15,000 backlog plus 800 to 2,900 ongoing annually over 2 to 3 years post-independence equals 6,400 to 23,700 total, or 2,100 to 7,900 annually. Deportees can be sent to Ottawa to be resettled by Canada or sent to the country of their own choosing. 6. Requiring Canada to accept or deport ineligible individuals. Mechanism. Canada must accept ineligible non-citizens, points failures, criminal convictions, or deport them per a bilateral agreement. Alberta escorts individuals to Canada, example, Ottawa by air, with Canada handling reintegration or deportation. Cost sharing sought via diplomacy. Alberta funds initial removals. Volume. Points-based failures. 45,000 to 76,000 reapplication, plus 20 to 30,000 retroactive equals 65,000 to 106,000. Criminal convictions, 4,800 to 18,000. Total ineligible, 69,800 to 124,000. Canada acceptance, 50 to 70%, 34,900, 86,800 return to Canada. Direct deportation, 30 to 50%, 21,000, 62,000 deported by Alberta. Annual deportations over 2 to 3 years, points-based, 21,667 to 35,333. Criminal, 3,200 to 8,400. Routine, example, overstay, 500 to 1,000. Total annual, 25,367 to 44,733. Deportation policy. Grounds. Points-based failure. Reapplication. Retroactive. Any criminal conviction carrying a jail sentence. Automatic for non-citizens. Misrepresentation. Significant or deliberate visa overstay. Failed refugee claims. Process. Alberta Immigration Board hearings for non-criminal cases. Automatic removal orders for convictions with jail sentences. Detention for high-risk cases, 500 to 1,000 detainees. Voluntary, 30 to 90 days, or escorted removals. One-level appeal, Alberta Immigration Appeals Tribunal. Volume, 23,000 to 41,000 annually, costing for immigration and deportation.
Do we want to take a minute?
Can.
That was a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
It's a lot.
But the amount of consideration in the last couple episodes, we've almost always alluded to the Alberta Next panels that occurred because that's when the UCP, Danielle Smith, the Alberta government, they started doing tours to get people's appetite for if they thought immigration needed to be changed, if they thought the RCMP needed to be changed, if we should start voting our judges in. And I listened to all of the town halls, and the overall sentiment was immigration was a problem, the way it was going right now. But some of the specifications on how to do it within this document are very detailed, stuff that I didn't even know we should consider. Obviously, there's cost for doing this, but even the considerations of health and then the tests that we should do in order, because a problem that was occurring is, you know, we would get people in Alberta that they had a degree in teaching of some sort, but because it was from another country, instead of testing them to see, okay, well, where is your actual skills, they just dismissed it, and now the person ends up, you know, driving Ubers for the rest of their life in Canada. So one thing I did appreciate was the fact that they plan on doing tests to compare the equivalency of their education compared to what their degree is in whatever foreign country it is that they came from. And then
say that the thing that sometimes was getting me, like, was the numbers mainly.
Yeah,
like that was the part that was getting me a little bit like, but I think that that's just them trying to clarify what they think they're approximating as what we'll be putting in and putting out essentially.
Well, yeah, because
they're
the
trying
idea
to
of
give
deporting is a
healthy
scary
look.
idea.
Yeah, well, also too, they're just trying to give a healthy look of the possibilities, potentials, and drawbacks. Right, there's going to be you know carrots and sticks in the whole process. First and foremost, to show that it's being thought of and it is being discussed. They're presenting solutions. This is a guideline for an infrastructure that we will be able to take on ourselves as an independent Alberta. So that's what I do like about so far from what I've seen. We know there's going to be nuances, and that's important. It has to be addressed because every individual is important. Then the question is how well can we streamline a process? And I mean, obviously that's going to take time because in some cases, you know, the desire to broad stroke brush is going to be there.
Yes.
But we're also going to have to exercise some humanity to do our best not to just allow for the broad stroke brush, and then all of a sudden we have several individuals getting swept away or getting lost in the cracks. But once again, there's birthing pains to a whole process like this, which I do expect to be a part of it. But for the most part, it has been quite detailed, and this is a large section, and a lot of this has to do. There's going to be people that actually like work in the field of immigration, that this will be a lot closer to home. They'll probably even have more to say about it. So if you end up listening to this and you're one of those individuals and you have some honest critiques that could be offered, then by all means have that in mind, and let's find a way to get your voice and your mind, participating even with the individuals that wrote this, or even like sending emails to APP with regards to this document. Because once again, this is to stimulate and to demonstrate that we are capable of thinking this problem through, and we are capable of coming up with a solution that's as fair as we believe we can possibly make it, especially under sort of a revamping of the judicial system. Because as we all know, none of this works with a corrupt justice system. And if we've learned anything over the last 5 years, is that we do not have a clean justice system. It is as crooked as a question mark.
And with the reapplicants, what would make someone have to reapply? Either if they got rejected the first time,
Yes.
or is it because they might be working out of Alberta, for example, so they have to reapply?
There could be all sorts of reasons. Like
Okay.
you could be working in another country. You've decided that, you're a year into your trade. You want to start your application process early. Like there are people that are pretty even intelligent about their immigration strategy, and they start their application process on their first year of doing a trade in another country, and then they keep applying every year. Like,
Yes,
so
'cause
like you're going to get reapplicant. Like you could end up with one person's applicant in your system, and they have like 4 applications that have come through over 4 years. But the
Yeah.
one thing that's happening is they've been getting better at their skill, hopefully, right? Before they try to enter Canada. And this is just me throwing out like an example. So this is very anecdotal. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's said too that it actually promotes that kind of forethought. Like you said, Dad, with your tickets, when you were rigging, you took the initiative.
Yeah.
People that take the initiative, they said for every year you're working, and then for every application that is proof of the work increasing, that will gain you extra points. And so the application could fail the first time because of insufficient points, or it also alluded to somebody that's in the middle of an appeal for perhaps a sentence that they received, whether it was just or not. To
Sure.
go to
Maybe
jail.
somebody's working from an NGO that they don't know is nefarious, and we do our homework and go, look, we would love to take you, but the employer that you're working for, they have a long history of laundering drug money, or they belong to the old British Empire in some way, shape, or form, and you don't want to blame them for such a thing.
A
right?
TD employee.
So, yeah, right. Any of the major 5 banks of Canada all launder drug money.
I like the fact, though, that this one said that they want to leverage Canada's Red Seal program, like just basically trying to make it so that we are targeting mainly trade people. And then I like how they're trying to make sure that we can certify people based on their equivalency skill. I mean, granted, I like more of the idea of the way that they were approaching it with the trades, and even what Maddie was talking about, where, okay, well, then we'll just let them complete gap training at institutions like SAID or NATE or something like that.
Or a skills test.
Or a skills test.
Yeah, that's really the way to go.
Because sometimes you're like having a test and it says that you can do a thing, right? But like these people, maybe they can. It's just for some reason unknown, maybe they don't get through our specific testing, but that doesn't mean they might not be qualified. So I like the fact that it's like give them a chance to at least show then that there might be some sort of skill that they can do, like maybe physically like see them doing the thing. I do like the fact that they're emphasizing obviously English and our first language, because I think that any country, like even long-standing ones like Russia, for example, if you're going to try and go there, you should at least know how to speak their language. I feel like it's just a common courtesy to any country to make sure you speak their official language, because it's also
that's how you get into the workforce too. I mean, Dad, you have experience with going into another country and you didn't speak the language, but you were also highly experienced, but it still took you a long time to...
Oh yeah, I had to grind it out. Yep. Yeah, I mean, all the time that I did in Mexico, right? You've come to a country that you don't know. to a language that you don't know. I even took a newly promoted position as well, so I had to gain in my experience of that position. There you go, right? It's a classic example. I had to bust my ass. Like, you do your 12-hour shift, and then you put in like another 3 to 4 hours of language study. You know, at that time the tool was like Rosetta Stone, and then going and trying to stir up conversations with people just to help get yourself in game shape to be able to do your job. So, and Russia was a classic example. Like, Putin was running a brain drain strategy during the whole COVID scenario, or just shortly after his special military operation, where Russia, for the first time in their immigration policy, actually lowered the need to speak Russian. But that was also just a great strategy to kind of allow people that were seeing the decay of the West's moral aptitude to reposition. Like, there is a mass amount of Canadians that actually migrated to Russia, you know, from agriculture sectors and so
and
forth.
Oil and gas, because they got similar industries thriving there that we do here.
Of course.
And another thing on that is, I think also because they have a more stable economy, they can afford to have people that don't speak the language. They haven't had a 10-year terrible immigration plan.
Yeah, that's
and so we are also, I think if Alberta gets the independence, they're also trying to do, it's like putting on tariffs so you can regain your foundations.
Yeah.
And eventually, once we do get our grounds and our foundations built, I know that we will gladly lower, just like Russia lower the English requirements a little bit too, but not until we are in a good place, because right now we are not, because of foreign policies, or federal policies, might as well be foreign policies, that we didn't get a say on.
Because then now it's a part where we're in a position to help other people flourish, but first we have to flourish ourselves, and so we need restrictions essentially to try and make that happen. But then once we've met our requirement and we're like, okay, we're feeling pretty good about where we stand, then we can open our doors a bit more leniently and then be like, oh, okay, so now this has become not just a place that needs to prosper. No, we already are prospering. So it's kind of like the American system of economics back in the day when America was first getting off its feet. That's what opened the doors to so many different people joining afterwards, because it was like, oh, America's the place to be to, quote unquote, make your dreams come true, right? And at a certain point that was actually true, and because it allowed itself to become that based on its economic policies and its tariff restrictions as well. Because I remember that when it was first on the offset, I was listening to a podcast, and I mentioned this before, again, they had their tariffs almost marked to 40 to 50% annually. Like, they were very tight structured when it came to that, to getting themselves started, and then they started to allow things to be a bit more merciful.
Yeah, tariffs shouldn't be used as blunt force trauma against your neighbors. Tariffs are to be used to defend your populace.
Yes.
And protect the upcoming skilled labor pool.
Yes, upcoming
industry. And once the potentiality where you can now be competitive, say with your immediate neighbors, not even so much on the world stage, maybe some of your immediate neighbors, then all of a sudden you can start to change that and allow more foreign goods to start coming into your country, because you know that your population can even benefit from what they see, what they look at from other people, and go, okay, they're making this at a percentage or a fraction better, more efficient, better energy consumption than we are. So let's up our game, you know, and what have you. Then you start collaborating with your neighbors a little bit better as well. Hopefully. I mean, obviously, mode of attention needs to be strongly considered when doing these policies, for which, by the way, the American system of economics, H.C. Carey was a proponent, one of the original people to coin that term, for anybody who wants to go and look that up, because he was an advisor to President Lincoln.
Yeah, that's Henry C. Carey.
Henry C. Carey.
Yeah, and then like one thing, of course, that I'm eyeballing is, again, cross-check with Anna Binsless CHEA for high-risk countries, and then they listed India, China, 50% of foreign degrees. Of course, then my next question is trying to figure out what's our metric of high risk, right? Because there's fraud going on within Canada right now, let alone for foreign interests, right? So then we need to figure out what our metric is to, like Dad said, you need a lawful system then that actually works, like that I think without that, our immigration policy and the ability to figure out who it is that we want to deport and checking for the criminal records and such like that. It's not gonna, I think, bode over very well if we don't get our shit together on the legal aspect of things.
We will bring up, we meaning me, but also I know Dad, because if in the past episodes we alluded to a podcast on the Shaun Newman podcast with Martin Armstrong and Brett Oland, and this again, Martin Armstrong, one of the biggest financial and wealth managers on the planet, hedge fund, thank you. Even he said, regardless of what your currency looks like and regardless of what some of the policies are, you need a solid law structure that the people can trust. And you need good working people, because energy is a direct correlation and production into the prospering of a society. What you just alluded to, MayCee, is not just for immigration. That's for insurance fraud. That's for health regulation in your health system, in your hospitals, in your nurses, or the College of Physicians. You know, any sort of regulatory body. If you don't have the good law structure that the people can trust in, all these other systems will fall apart. And that's why we have to go back and have a constitutional convention if this referendum passes, and the negotiations begin to actually form a solid foundation, which is they did in 1746.
We have to get back to a people prosperity based political economy design, maybe even improve upon Henry Carey's plan, you know, like looking at the American system, political economics, seeing if we can improve it. Look at their constitution, see if we can improve it to do the more perfect union, as was once said. You're taking two metaphors here. You're on a plane that's shaky and crashy. You got to put the mask on yourself before you put it on your children, as much as that's, you know, something that might go against a parent's instinct. I know that it would at times go against even my own, but if you don't do this thing, then what good are you to help your child? And so same thing, if you're looking at the birth of a nation, it's going to be in an infantile sort of position. So we need to do what's best within our own borders. And that's also a biblical principle when it says, you know, take care of the borders within the walls of your own house and the fencing of your property before you start concerning yourself with poking into your neighbor's business, so to speak. And we would have to get back to some fundamental basics of moral aptitude.
I just wanted to add, like, we've already mentioned this before, but this is why it kind of needs to get emphasized, is, again, the concept of don't put all your eggs in one basket as well. Like, with even the idea of the fraudulence aspect and part of things and high risk, it's like our monetary system and how we're managing that and how we are managing loans and investment and all of that plays a large part into our success as well, in our ability to vet those types of individuals, those criminals, because we have set a standard where we're like, okay, we're not going to just put everything into this one central bank entity. We're going to maybe do the infrastructure bank, agriculture bank, right? We're trying to make sure that not all the eggs are in one basket. And then we're also going to be looking at no rehypothecation, or maybe don't be extending credit so much. Like it says, if you don't have it, then don't give it. You know what I mean? So yeah, just stuff that do need to get considered in order for any of the success of any of these ideas to really come to fruition. So.
And on the topic of money and, you know, credit and cost, we are on the last section of this. It's like a page left.
Yeah, everybody. And then there's considerations at the end. But yeah, we're there. We can land the plane
home
here pretty
stretch.
Quick. Yes. Costing for immigration and deportation. Immigration costs. Reapplication. Staffing. 800 to 1,200 staff for 150,000 to 190,000 reapplications over 2 years. 80,000 salary equals 64 to 96 million annually. IT systems setup 75 million, maintenance 15 million annually. Security checks 1,000 times 150 to 190,000 divided by 2 equals 75 to 95 million annually. New applicants 18,000 to 27,000. Staffing 200 staff 16 million. Security checks 18 to 27 million. IT maintenance, $5 million. Settlement services. New immigrants, $5,000 times 18,000 to 27,000 equals 90 to 135 million. Reapplicants, 90,000 to 133,000 approved. 500 times 90,000 minus 133,000 divided by 2 equals 45 to 66.5 million. Promotion, 5 to 10 million. Total annual cost, 233 to 304.5 million. Initial setup cost, 100 to 150 million. Deportation costs. Administration, 250 to 450 staff for 23,000, 41,000 to 41,000 cases, $80,000 salary equals 20 to 36 million annually. Detention, 500 to 1,000 detainees times $200 per day times 30 days equals 3 to 6 million annually. Removal to Canada, 12,684 to 31,313 cases, 50 to 70% of 25,367 to 44,733 at $12,800 to 50,000, midpoint 31,400 equals 398 to 983 million annually, midpoint give or take 600 million. Direct deportation, 7,610 to 22,366 cases, 30 to 50% at 12,800 to 122,800, midpoint 67,800 equals 97 to 1,516 million annually, midpoint give or take 700 million. Total 495 to, I don't know why it says 2,499 million, but anyways, somebody, anyways, midpoint, give or take 1.3 billion. Legal aid appeals, 5,000 times 23,000 minus 41,000 equals 118 to 206 million annually. Routine deportations, 6.4 to 122.8 million. Midpoint is 50 million. Total annual cost, 0.6 to 2.6 billion. Midpoint 1.6 billion. Initial setup cost, 50 to 80 million. Tribunal detention upgrades. Total costs, annual, 0.9, 3.0 billion. 0.25 to 0.25 billion immigration. Plus 0.6, 2.7 billion deportation. Initial setup, 0.1 to 0.2 billion. Challenges and considerations. Legal risks. Automatic deportation for minor convictions may violate human rights norms, triggering international challenges. Appeals could cost 10 to 20 million annually. Diplomatic strain. In the wide range of issues that a newly independent Alberta would need to work out with Canada, this issue may attract undue attention and focus due to its humanitarian aspects. If the numbers are as high as projected and have a high proportion of proven criminals, Canada may resist accepting them at the Ottawa airport and use the humanitarian aspect to unduly leverage other areas of negotiation. Humanitarian exceptions. While the whole humanitarian aspect requires careful consideration, options such as granting new PR cards and existing PR holders with 5 years of residency and 60 points on humanitarian grounds would reduce deportation by about 5,000 to 10,000 per year and reduce the cost by about 260 million per year, assuming give or take 35,000 per removal. Economic disruption. Deporting 69,000 to 123,000 individuals could disrupt certain sectors. Examples: agriculture, construction. It may be desirable to expand APNP to mitigate by adding 2,000 nominees on the basis of proven employment in the agricultural sector. Public backlash. Strict criminal deportation may gain support aligned with Alberta Sovereignty Act sentiment, but mass removals could alienate communities. Public consultation is essential, along with promoting the alternative pathways, example direct sponsorship, on humanitarian grounds. That is the immigration section, people. Thank you for coming along for the ride on that one. That was a mouthful.
Yeah. I like that it said public consultation, though. Like, just getting people's inputs then on some of these challenges and considerations that they just listed here.
Well, that's what this is for. This video, this document is a guide to help start the thinking, because if something as big as this is happening, which is happening, people need to consider it, because, you know, some just think that the sovereignty in and of itself, getting the independence, would be enough. But if anybody here, anybody watching, has watched any other of our videos or followed our recommendations to look at the works of like Matthew Arrett and historians, if you know Operation Gladio, independence is a threat in and of itself, because there are so many special interest groups and foreign entities NGOs, as Dad alluded to earlier, that would be super duper interested in the prosperity or the capitalizing and monopoly of Alberta's resources and our people. And so it is very important to consider these things, whether you agree with this document or not. Start thinking about what this document is saying and how you have a better idea, or you know a friend who does, because thinking about it is the way we're going to solve this and actually become a sovereign nation.
Yeah, we'll become our own worst enemy. And being able to think things through is really important. Just as a little sort of anecdotal example, Benjamin Franklin at the time of the 1776 was 70 years old. Okay, so he was working on this as an individual for many, many years, trying to help with the culture to bring people's mindsets into a position where they truly did, as an agrarian society, were thinking these problems through and being, read. And we need to do the same thing. Like, the reason why we're doing this is not just so that, we read it so you don't have to. It's actually, hopefully you read it along with us. We got one more to do. Towards a Great Economic Future will be our next chapter. But without a responsible citizenry, our country doesn't get off the ground. And so we really do implore you and encourage you and really want you to be a part of that process. And we're trying to show you that we're doing the heavy lifting ourselves. Like, we are plebs. The Holmes family is a set of nobodies in this world, but it's our world and we're in it. So we just wanted to communicate that to you, the listener, and hopefully you'll share and like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Buy my daughters a matcha.
What time are we on?
He said it, so I'm pulling it up.
How long have we gotten in this one?
We are at 57 minutes.
Yeah.
We are at the hour.
We're good to go. We're good to go.
And the next one is I was doing like a bit of some deep seeking, like playing with my own ideas of like what I think are actually some of the things and risks that we should be considering, like as Maddie was kind of alluding to, but a bit more so. So I think that maybe we can do a little
post-series fireside chat.
On actually some more
chat.
of the risks, so that way we can really try and see to make sure we are thinking this through. So yeah.
Precisely. Now to end it off, because Dad said it, me and MayCee do have a quotidian matcha. And you can buy us not
and
one,
she made
not
a cute
three,
little
5, or...
She made a cute little matcha.
I did.
Yeah, little...
This is on Buy Me
icon,
Coffee.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but me and MayCee don't drink coffee. We drink matcha because it's healthier for you, and caffeine is more effective. So if you want to support this little thing that you're watching now, and these little people,
it keeps us awake while we're trying to do these episodes.
Yes, because before we start the next part, we're making a matcha.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you very
for
much.
Joining us.
Yep, this has been Politics at Home with Holmes. Alberta Prosperity Edition. Is it possible?
The answer is yes.
Absolutely.
We will see you next time.
Bye.
Toodaloo.